Hey everybody, it's Rick Troutman with KT and the Trout. On behalf of KT and myself, we're glad to be able to present our very first ever video podcast that we recorded back in May of 2021. Our very first guest was Dallas comedian Angela Owen. Angela was kind enough to sit down with us for a few minutes to talk about what's coming up, how she got to be a well-known comedian, and what she's got going on in the future. So sit back and enjoy a great time with Angela Owen. And as always, remember, life is short. Eat more bacon.
KT and the Trout Show!
Our first guest on KT and the Trout for our video podcast. Is that a vidipod? Vidipod. Vidcast is Angela Owen, Dallas comedian and all-time funny person. Is that right?
It's absolutely right.
Okay.
And I take great offense to you saying that you apologize for what we look like.
I wasn't apologizing for you.
Okay.
I was apologizing for us.
Yeah.
Just making sure. I've spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just making
Right now I have more chins in a Chinese phone book, but
Okay.
Okay.
So, I've known Angela for a few years. I was introduced to her by a comedian and another comedian, which started with the young one, and then the older one. So that's how we all met. And she was kind enough when I reached out to her because I like her and she's funny and we want to make her more famous. Is that right?
Sure. That sounds
Okay.
like a plan.
that's a good plan.
That's a good plan. So we're going to ask you some questions that we know if they're true or false. So the first question is, why are you funny?
Ooh.
Wait, you said these were true or false? Wait a minute.
No, I said we'll know if they're true or false. That's an A/B question with a yes/no answer. Why are you funny?
Why?
Yes.
I don't know. I've never been asked why I'm funny. I've been asked how I'm funny, why I'm funny. I think everybody's kind of funny. Isn't everybody kind of funny?
I agree.
In a way, they may not know it. But I think I don't know. Why am I funny, Trout? You tell me, man. I don't know. I'm like going, I know how to do it. I don't know
Well,
why.
all right. So we'll get some easier.
I think that was a trick.
I can't.
It was a trick. I wanted to start with the trick question because they get easier from now on.
I was born that way, man. I was born that way.
You're born that way. There you go.
I like it.
So tell me, don't tell me, tell him and tell the audience a little history. Why did you become a comedian? When did you become a comedian?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, that why am I funny? It goes back to that kind of question because I think comedians are born. I don't think they become. Like, I don't think you can take a class and become a comedian. I think that you either are or you aren't. And so I've been a comedian my whole life. I've done it for a living since I was 50. And why did I wait till I was 50? Because I had kids and they were demanding. And I was still trying to attract and keep my husband at the time. And now I don't care. So I think that I started when I was 50. Actually, my daughter recommended that I take a writing class, and she said, "Why don't you just see what you can do with your writing?" Because I've always been writing. I had notes in my phone all the time, just little.
So what did you write? What do you write?
I would write just a thought. I would write just a, I don't know, what would I write? Usually just a thought, and then and if it was an original thought, I would put AO at the end of it. But if it was not an original thought, or I didn't think it was an original thought, I wouldn't put my initials on it. And that was before I ever became a comedian. So I had all this stuff in my notes and in my phone and stuff. And then I took a writing class, and it was really easy to turn those things into jokes.
Wow.
And yeah.
I've always been curious on how
destiny
comedians do that.
How they do what?
Like, prepare for a show. I've seen a lot of comedians that will, if you watch them a lot, you'll notice they'll take a show and then they'll say the same joke, but they kind of change it up a little bit. I have a question though for you, Angela. Do you remember the very first joke when you got up on stage for the first time What was the very first joke you ever told to kind of start your comedian career?
Trophy wife.
Trophy wife?
Trophy wife was my first joke. Yeah. And it's funny, I'm just now phasing it out a little bit. And it's funny, I just did a show in Oklahoma City, and Megan King, shout out to Megan King,
There you go.
fine, and a comedian. We went to Oklahoma City, and we were talking about it on the way up there. And she was saying, I think, trophy wife and participation trophy and stuff are becoming a real kind of overdone statement. It's it's not as original as it was 5 years ago. So we were talking about how I would phase it out, how I would do that.
Well, so tell us, because nobody knows. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You can finish the story first.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I got to the venue, and I went up to the front table, and I introduced myself, and I said, "Can I have y'all's names, because I might want to talk to you during the show," right? And their names were Kitty and Frank. And Kitty said, "Oh, I know who you are. You're the trophy wife. I follow you on Instagram."
Uh-oh.
And I went, okay. And I was just thinking about kind of getting rid of the joke. So,
Right.
Who knows? So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I know some of the jokes you said, but tell us a little bit about the trophy, wife jokes. Because I think they're hilarious.
Thank you. Thank you. I just, usually I start out by saying, usually it's, "Excuse me, sir. You look scared, like you've never been this close to a trophy wife before." And that just always gets a laugh, on the front end. And then when I can call their name, like the other night, I said, "Frank, you look scared, like you've never been this close to a trophy wife before."
Right.
And then I can say, "Well, we got married in 1993, so it was a participation trophy." There's only one
Everybody
difference.
gets one.
There's only one difference between a participation trophy and a first place trophy. That's effort. My husband to be put forth zero effort. He brought nothing to the table. He thought all he had to do was show up to go home with me, and he was right. I didn't sign a prenup. I married Mitchell's potential.
Potential.
Yeah.
I like it.
I've been boosting his self-esteem for a long time now, and about 20 years. And so now I'm just draining his bank accounts because he's reached his potential. So
So
yeah.
do you get nervous and stuff on stage, or are you beyond that point? I mean, I know as an artist myself, I never really had a problem with being afraid to be on stage. But then again, I've always been real curious. I think comedy is one of those professions that is, I would be terrified, even though I think I'm funny. I would be terrified just because, you have that smaller audience. To me, it's easier to get up in front of a very large audience compared to getting up in front of a very small audience. And
it's the opposite for a comedian.
Yeah.
The bigger the audience, the more the laughs. The more the laughs, the better you do.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, before I started comedy at 50, I started comedy at 33, and I just did church stuff. I'm not a Chick-fil-A Hobby Lobby kind of Christian, but
right.
I did a lot of church stuff, you know what I mean? But, and so I was used to being on stage with an audience that had to love you.
Right. Yeah. It's in their DNA, right?
Yes, they have to. It's a requirement. And so, so I did that for 15 years. And so when I got on the stage for the first time, like say at Hyenas or the Improv, shout out to the Back Door, Comedy Arena. Anyway, on the club stages, they do not have to like you. They do not have to like you. And they will tell you if they don't by their silence. And you have to figure out, but see, you were saying a while ago, how does the process work? Well, what you do is you write jokes wherever you write them. I write them everywhere. I write them a lot. I write jokes a lot when I'm driving. I'm so sorry if I ever have hit either one of you, but I write jokes a lot while I'm driving. And so you write your jokes, and then you take them to open mics and you refine them there. You say it the first time one way and see what happens there. And then you change up a couple of words. You see what happens there. And then you adjust something, you give it a bigger punch, you work it out on stage. And some comedians write on stage. I know that there's the idea that we're just getting up there and saying those things for the first time. No.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Does your husband laugh at your jokes?
Yes, they
He
make him
does.
money. They make him money.
Oh,
He laughs at the jokes. Yeah, he likes the coin. And he, my husband is he has a side hustle as an actor. He does community theater, so he
I
loves.
didn't know
all,
that.
yeah, he loves all of this. You know, well, you've met Mitch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He's a nice guy, and I don't deserve him. So yeah, he's pretty good. And basically, he can't hear me anymore. So. You know, he hasn't heard the jokes. I mean, you know, he can hear a possum eating little friskies on the patio at 2 a.m., but not me.
But not you.
So everything you do in front of a crowd or wherever you are, you've already written down. Do you ad lib very often?
Yeah. I am ad libbing more than I used to. I wasn't a big ad libber at first because I'm just really a perfectionist and a freak about things, and that can really limit you because you have to. If something happens, you got to go with it. I don't know if I can't even talk about my closer on this show, can I? Trout? No.
We try to keep it PG, you know.
Yeah. Well, the other night I have a closer and I was doing the closer and a guy made a comment from the crowd and I had to address it, you know, and so I had to veer off a bit. So ad libbing is a part of becoming comfortable, and it's a part of letting them. That's the thing. You just what is it called? Suspend their disbelief, and by ad libbing between things that you've said 100 times, you let them know that you're there. You know,
It's kind of like the third rail they say in movies, where the actor looks at the camera and talks, because they know you're doing an act, and then when you start talking to them, it's like, wait a minute, she's talking to me. It's not an act anymore.
Yeah. The thing is, comedy is like a continual breaking of the fourth wall.
Yeah.
I am talking to you, and you're not even allowed to talk back at me, and I am not talking other people's words. I'm talking my words. Right. You know, so it always makes me laugh when people want to give me jokes. Friends, oh, I have a good joke about. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
I've never done that. I've never done that. I never said stuff for the funny to you, but I never say, here's a joke for you.
No, but I'm like, is it original to you? Because if it's original to you, you should do it, because it can't be original to me. You know, I have to talk about the things I know. Now it's fun when you get to shock people about the things you know. And it's fun. I love going up on stage, and Trout can tell you this. I like going up on stage and looking one way, and the words that come out of my mouth don't match that. You know? Yeah. So I was out to dinner with a couple of comedians the other night, and we were with a guy that was from Cleveland, and I didn't know him. I had just met him. Mike Head. Shout out to Mike Head. Anyway, he's a real nice guy from Cleveland. And one of the other comedians, Emily Griefer, she said to me, she goes, "Oh, tell him about that time you shot the guy in the foot."
That's funny.
And I'm like, okay, it's not very interesting. And he looked at me and was like, "Oh, now I want to know."
Right.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because, you know, they say a lot of times that comedians are really, I'm not saying this about you, are really tragic characters, but they deal with the comedy because they're not happy people. But I've known you a long time. You're not that way at all, unless you've been really good at hiding it.
So you mean people get into comedy because they might be stressed, or they might be
they're really depressed, and that's why because every time you see like a famous comedian, let's say the ones that were famous, like Jim Williams, they all want to do serious acting.
Okay.
You know, and they say because emotionally they're really not happy people, and that's why they do comedy all the time. But
I think that I had, I've had some, you know, okay, this is the thing. If I explain my life and my childhood and how I was raised and blah, 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 to a lot of people, they'd go, "Oh my God, that's terrible." I mean, it was just the 70s and the 80s to me. So, you know, it was just, but I have always dealt with, I grew up in a home that didn't allow for a lot of emotion. So I have always dealt with my emotions through humor.
Right.
So there's that, but like I've never, you know, tried to commit suicide or anything like that. Right, no. I did a lot of drugs. So, but you know, I don't know, tragedy.
But I mean, who didn't in the 60s?
You know what? I had a comedian one time tell me at an open mic that she thought I was one of the only comedians that she knew that I was the same person off stage.
Okay.
Yeah, you are. I would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when you're in on, obviously, but that's what you get paid to do.
Right.
But
right.
you're pretty much the same person.
Oh yeah, we have. I mean, when Trout called me earlier, that was the fastest we've ever gotten off the phone. Like, I was like, he just said bye, and it hadn't been 30 minutes yet.
Right.
You know, we talk endlessly. We talk endlessly. If Mitch comes, my husband's Mitch. If Mitch comes in the room and I say I'm on the phone with Rick, you know, he'll go, okay, and he's out.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it doesn't take much to turn it on.
Well, so here's a question for you. I have two questions in regards to what you do. So
Wait, I have one question first.
Huh?
Am I
Yes.
looking at y'all still?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yeah.
I keep looking. I feel like we're like looking up in the corner because our camera's here and you're up here.
We could all turn our backs to
I'm
her.
dizzy because I'm in my visual and you're in my peripheral, and it's freaking me
I
out.
know.
Yeah, me too.
understand.
I'm trying to look at the camera, but I'm like, she's over here.
right.
So when you go to a night, like you were at Oklahoma City, you were mentioning the other day, you were playing in Oklahoma City with how many ladies were there? 4 or 5?
There were 6 ladies on that show.
Okay.
Ultimately, they had a guest spot, and so there were 6.
How did they decide who was what's the pimp spot for a comedian?
The pimp spot is headliner.
Mm,
And that was that the last person that goes on?
yeah.
That's the last person that goes on.
Okay. So on when you performed at OKC, how did they decide who was going to be the headliner?
I don't know. I really, usually the way that it goes, that was my first time at that venue. Usually the way that it goes is, if you're on the scene, like DFW, people know in DFW on the comedy scene who the headliners are and who they're not, you know what I mean? People that have been in the game longer, people who are known, you know, for having tight sets, people who, if it works with the crowd that you're going to have, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is it a who you know kind of business, or how long you've been in it, or if you're not funny, then you're just not going to be the headliner? Is it like, you know, well,
okay. If you're not funny, you're not going to be the headliner.
right, of course.
It does not matter okay. So there are a lot of people in comedy, and DFW is a big comedy scene. It has a large comedy scene, and the quality in DFW is amazing. We have good comics, and it's amazing. It's a great place to grow up as a comic. But it's you will only get to a certain level by who you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if your talent doesn't catch up with you,
then you're not making it.
you're not gonna, it's just,
Right.
and there are people that go into comedy and then decide that they're not supposed to be on stage, and they become the comedy peripheral, like they do headshots and they help produce shows and they do marketing, and so there's a lot to do. It's a business. There's a lot to do. And so like when I work with people, sometimes I pick people not for their sets, but for their know-how. And then I give them stage opportunity to grow as a comedian. And you find out who's really good at what. Like I have at the State Fair, Brittany Goss and I work on shows together. We produce shows together. We work on the State Fair together. We're doing a show in Tyler. We do these nail shows, or we did before the pandemic, and so, and she's got good stage time. She's got longevity, but she knows the business too. And so it's really helpful to have all pieces of the pie.
Well, it's kind of like us being musicians. If a young person comes to me and wants to, I always tell them it's the business of music, not the music business.
Yeah.
And then that's the
Stay
one.
away.
That's stay away.
If you like snakes, you're in the right place.
So have you ever followed somebody that they just crashed, and you just really want to hug them and say, man, you sucked, but I'm going to be better than you, and I'm going to walk on stage and kick your ass?
No.
But you got people that are not very good, and they're in a group with you, and you're like, you just want to probably hug them or tell them to get a day job, or what do you do?
being a good comedian is like being an alcoholic. Only your closest friends can tell you some things. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that you would ever, and there's a lot of respect that goes along with longevity, you know? And so I mean, and people improve. I think comedians, if they're active, if they got a good hustle and they're doing the grind, they improve no matter where they are. If they've been in it 20 years, they still improve. It's still better and better. And so it's not, I mean, I know people that are older than me. That's shocking. I know. I mean, there's like on the Dallas scene, there's like 5 people older than me, and then there's me. But I mean, older than me in comedy, who still do, you know, smaller shows and other things like that. But also comedy is one of those back and forth things, because I know people who've been doing it for years and have gone to California and had success, and they've got national creds, they've got TV and everything like that.
Yeah.
And you'll still find them doing a bar show in Deep Ellum, because you have to keep going back to your roots. You have to keep going back to where you found your funny.
Well, I think I used to watch Johnny Carson for years, and I watched Jay Leno. And Leno was always, well, he did the Tonight Show, 5 days a week. And then on the weekends, he'd go to Vegas and do a show. And he always said that he did that so he could try the jokes, there instead of in front of millions of people. Yeah. And he liked the closeness of that performance, because you're right there.
Leno is a really good writer. He's a really good writer. Mm-hmm. And I think that good writers, I would say I am a stronger writer than I am performer. Still.
Do those guys not have like teams of writers that help them? Well, of course, when you get to that point, do you think those guys have teams of writers, or they pretty much do it themselves? And then
Johnny definitely had people write for him. I am really, honestly, if Leno took the joke somewhere, I think probably he wrote his own. But I don't know for sure. I got inadvertently, I got advice from Jay Leno, because, okay, you have to follow it because I'm Southern. Okay. My nephew was a pastor of church in Atlanta.
Okay.
Jeff Foxworthy goes to his church.
Okay.
And so he called me, he talked to Jeff about me, and he called me one time and he said, this is the advice that Jeff says he got from Jay.
Okay, got it.
Write 2 minutes a day.
That's kind of
weird. 2 minutes is one joke.
Okay.
So, and he said, if you do that, you'll never run out of material. And like, I definitely don't do that, but I do write a lot. Like right now I have, hang on, let me look at my phone and I'll tell you exactly, so I can be all right about it and whatnot. I have 110 jokes in my phone.
Lordy.
Right now.
How many do you perform in a set?
How in a set?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how long you have.
Well, okay, right.
I am pretty set up punch. I don't daddle along. I don't, because I don't really ad lib a lot yet. So mine is really kind of clean and fast. So in a 15-minute set, I can do 16 jokes.
Okay.
Laughs per minute. Yeah. Laughs per minute is what you want to be really cognizant of. You remember the little show that you came and saw me in Plano, Trout?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Laughs per minute. Like that show, I had really good laughs per minute because they hit. Like you want to have laughs in the first 10 seconds of a set.
Oh yeah.
And then if you can have 6 laughs a minute, 8 laughs a minute, 10, you know what I mean? I've had as much as 11, 12 laughs a minute, when I watch my sets back. And so it's really good. Now I'll tell you what, Phyllis Diller is known for having 60 laughs in a set, in a minute.
She would just throw stuff out.
She was
Rodney Dangerfield, just like boom, boom.
They were both incredible one-liners.
Yeah.
And my jokes, I only have a few kind of long jokes. I have, trophy wife, and I have proud mom, and I've got shoplifting. Those are kind of longer bits. But most of my jokes are boom, boom. and that's where you laugh. Boom, boom, and that's where you laugh. And so, and it's just the way that I write, because before I was doing this, I was writing skits for churches and monologues for churches, and you have to get it going. You have to make it hit, and because those church people will fall asleep on you.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a writing style now.
I have, I'm not going to say it now. I had one church joke. It's not dirty, but it's pretty funny.
Okay.
I do have some questions. We're getting close to running out of time. So I have some questions
Oh,
here.
sorry.
No. This is fine. You're doing great. We appreciate your time. All right. So these are questions you just have to answer which one you prefer. You ready?
Good. Ready.
Hawaii or the Caribbean?
The Caribbean.
Musician or actor?
Musician.
Mustard or ketchup?
Mustard.
Country and Western or rock?
Rock.
Carson or Leno?
Carson.
You know, I have to tell you real quick. I was a kid, watched him, and my parents would let me stay up and watch him. I knew every inside joke he said, you know, because you had to follow it all the time. You know, and you knew.
Yeah.
All right, before we get off here.
I grew up on Carson, and so it's just I go back and watch reruns. I love him, you know. I love Merv Griffin too. I'm a freak.
Well, what irritated about Johnny was he had the perfect body for clothes. So he had his own line. But I mean, he wears suits all the time. And I look at him and go, God, I wish I looked that good in a suit.
I think the Ken doll was made after Johnny Carson.
I think you're
looks
right.
just like that. Yeah.
So this is when we come to the favorite part. Your favorite part is promoting yourself.
Yes.
So tell us what you got coming up.
Yes. Okay. So I started after the pandemic, or if that's where we are, I started booking out and coming in. So I have my first show will be, I wrote it down. My first show is going to be August 13th and 14th at the Comedy Arena in McKinney. You can go on their website probably in June to buy tickets. Yes, let's do it. The Comedy Arena in McKinney. I'm drinking Coke, I swear. The Comedy Arena in McKinney. It's a great little spot. It's a room that, it's not a big room. I think it maybe holds 100 people or less.
It's pretty good size though.
Yeah, but it's really nice. It's nice. It's a second story thing. Anyway, really great. Come out and support us there. Or I'm doing a show August 28th in Tyler at the Liberty Hall. They will also have the information on how to get tickets by June on the website. That's Liberty Hall, Tyler, Texas. And then, as always, every Friday night at the State Fair of Texas at the Wine Garden at 8:30 for Deep Fried Comedy. The show that we're doing in Tyler is a deep fried comedy show also. That's me, Barry Whitewater, David Jessup, Latrice Wilkerson, and Brittany Goss. It's an excellent show.
So for you that are watching this YouTube, and assuming it's not September, this will also, all that information that she just got through saying will be on our website at ktandthetrout.com. We'll put a little section up there that says Angela Owen performances. We'll put that up there. So if you're like me, because when she just said what she said, you'll go like, where's she going? You know.
Angela, if somebody wants to reach out to you, do you have a Facebook
You can also
page?
find me at Angela Owen Comedy on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Perfect.
So, and that's, I put all the shows up. So if there's something that happens before August, I'll let you know. The thing in Oklahoma just came up, so I assume there may be some pop-up things, but I just started, booking out and coming this way with.
So let's end this with, I'm a very well-known promotion person, and I have contacts everywhere in the comedian world. What do you want to tell me so I want to hire you?
Wasn't that kind of like the first question?
You don't.
No, it's different. It's different.
No, you don't have anybody in my lane. You don't have anybody in my lane right now.
There you go.
So pick me up.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much.
Angela Owen, Dallas comedian. Love you, baby.